Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that I believe is being dangerously overlooked by the mainstream financial world. We're talking about silver and why I'm convinced the market is completely unprepared for two massive, game-changing developments that are lurking just beneath the surface. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share could fundamentally change how you view your investments and the stability of the entire financial system. Right now, there's a pervasive sense of calm, almost a complacency, that has settled over the market. The general consensus seems to be that we're in for a period of minor adjustments, a soft landing, maybe a few bumps here and there, but nothing major. Investors are being told that central banks have everything under control, that inflation is yesterday's news, and that economic growth will just chug along as expected. This narrative is comforting, but it's also incredibly misleading. People are looking at the minor day-to-day fluctuations and thinking, see, everything's fine. They're ignoring the cracks that are starting to appear in the foundation. This widespread belief in continued stability is creating a massive blind spot, and it's in this blind spot that the greatest risks are hiding. It's a classic case of not seeing the forest for the trees, and it's setting the stage for a rude awakening. To understand the gravity of our current situation, we need to take a step back and look at a painful lesson from our recent past. The great market collapse of 2025. Does that ring a bell? For those who were invested back then, it's a memory you probably wished you could forget. But for the rest of us, it's a crucial case study. Leading up to that crash, the warning signs were everywhere. The chatter about new, aggressive international tariffs was growing louder and louder. Independent analysts, much like myself, were sounding the alarm, pointing out how these protectionist policies would shatter global supply chains and trigger a devastating economic domino effect. But what happened? The big banks, the mainstream analysts, the so-called experts on TV, they all dismissed it. They called it noise, political posturing that would never actually happen. They advised everyone to stay the course, to buy the dip, to trust the system. They were tragically wrong. When those tariffs were finally enacted, the market didn't just dip, it nosedived. It was a brutal, swift collapse that wiped out trillions in wealth. And it happened because the entire market chose to ignore clear, repeated warnings. They were caught completely off guard, despite the writing being on the wall for months. The lesson is simple, but powerful. When the consensus ignores a fundamental threat, the fallout is always catastrophic. And that brings us to today, and specifically to the silver market. The reason I brought up the 2025 crash is because I'm seeing the exact same pattern unfolding right now, the same complacency, the same dismissal of critical warnings, the same "it can't happen here" attitude. The current situation with silver is a mirror image of the lead-up to that 2025 collapse. We have a set of circumstances that are building towards a major supply and demand crisis, yet the market is acting as if it's just business as usual. The parallels are chilling. Just as the tariff threat was the ignored catalyst back then, we have two enormous unforeseen developments in the silver space that are being completely brushed aside. The market is sleepwalking towards a cliff, and the mainstream narrative is the lullaby putting them to sleep. This isn't just a possibility, it's a looming certainty. A crisis in the silver market is not a matter of if, but when. So, what are these two bombshells that no one is talking about? Let's get into the first one. It revolves around a massive technological breakthrough in an industry you might not immediately associate with silver: water purification. For years, the standard for large-scale industrial water treatment has relied on complex chemical processes and expensive filtration systems. But a quiet revolution has been happening in materials science labs. Researchers have perfected a new method that uses silver-infused nanocomposites. This new technology is not just slightly better, it's exponentially more effective and dramatically cheaper than anything that exists today. It can purify water on an industrial scale with unprecedented efficiency, removing contaminants that current systems can't touch. Now, why is this a big deal? Because several of the world's largest industrial conglomerates have been secretly pouring billions into this research. They are now on the verge of a global rollout. We're talking about companies in manufacturing, agriculture, and energy production, sectors that use colossal amounts of water. They're about to retrofit their entire global operations with this new silver-based technology. We are not talking about a gradual adoption over a decade. This is a coordinated, massive-scale industrial shift that is set to happen within the next 18 to 24 months. The amount of silver required for this single application is staggering. It's a source of demand that has not been factored into any official supply and demand projection from the Silver Institute, the USGS, or any major bank. It is, for all intents and purposes, invisible demand. And when this demand suddenly comes online, it's going to hit the market like a tidal wave. Now for the second development, and this one is on the supply side. It's just as disruptive, if not more so. A significant portion of the world's silver supply doesn't come from primary silver mines. It's actually a byproduct of mining for other metals, primarily lead and zinc. For decades, this has provided a steady, predictable stream of silver into the market. But that's about to change dramatically. Over the past few years, a powerful new wave of environmental regulations has been quietly working its way through the legislative bodies of several key mining countries, think places like Mexico, Peru, and China, all major producers. These new rules are targeting the environmental impact of lead and zinc mining specifically. They are imposing incredibly strict standards on water usage, waste disposal, and emissions, making many of these operations far more expensive and, in some cases, economically unviable. The mining industry has been lobbying against this, of course, but they've lost the fight. These regulations are locked in. They are not proposals, they are law, with enforcement set to begin in the very near future. We are about to witness the forced shutdown of numerous major lead and zinc mines around the world. And when those mines close, the byproduct silver they produce vanishes from the market. We're talking about a sudden and significant contraction in global silver supply. Again, this is a structural shift that the market models have not accounted for. They are still projecting supply based on the old operational realities. This isn't a mine going on strike for a few weeks. This is a permanent removal of a huge chunk of silver supply from the global equation. So let's put the two pieces together. On one hand, we have a massive, unprecedented new source of industrial demand for silver about to explode onto the scene from the water purification sector. This is demand that nobody is pricing in. On the other hand, we have a sudden structural collapse in the supply of silver due to new environmental regulations shutting down byproduct mines. This is a supply cut that nobody is anticipating. You have a demand shock and a supply shock set to happen at virtually the same time. It's a perfect storm. This isn't a simple tightening of the market. This is the recipe for a full-blown crisis, a scenario where industrial users and investors alike are scrambling for a metal that is suddenly incredibly scarce. The price implications are, frankly, mind-boggling. When you have a fundamental deficit of this magnitude, where demand massively outstrips available supply, prices do just drift higher. They go vertical. We are not talking about a 10% or 20% move. We are talking about a potential repricing of silver by an order of magnitude. The market will be forced to find a price high enough to destroy enough demand to balance the market. Think about that. The price would have to rise so dramatically that it forces some industries to abandon their plans or find alternatives that don't even exist yet. This is the kind of event that turns a $25 asset into a $100 asset and then a $200 asset, seemingly overnight. And the majority of investors who are still listening to the "everything is fine" narrative will be left in the dust wondering what just happened. This is why the complacency we see today is so dangerous. It's the same blindness that led to the 2025 crash. People are looking at the silver chart and see a boring sideways market. They see the official reports that talk about a small, manageable deficit. They are completely missing the two tectonic plates shifting beneath the surface. This isn't speculation. It's connecting the dots. The information is out there if you know where to look, but it's not being served up on a platter by the mainstream media. My goal today is to give you that critical piece of the puzzle that everyone else is missing. The warning is clear. A major silver crisis is no longer a fringe theory. It is an approaching reality. Prepare yourselves accordingly. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this analysis valuable, please hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you do not miss our future updates on this developing story. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay informed and invest wisely.